welcome everyone, and welcome to this Emerge Africa webinar with Professor Martin Ebner from University of Graz in Austria, and he's going to be presenting for us today on M2 seamless learning. So I'm going to mute my mic now, and over to you, Martin.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can understand me. Maybe you can give me a short sign, a clapping hands or something like that, or in the chat, if the sound is okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thanks again for the invitation to present my thoughts about emerging technologies and from mobile and seamless learning. The idea of this presentation was that we are often talking about pedagogical concepts, about didactical approaches, and how technologies can be used also for learning and education. But sometimes I get the feeling that we have also to take a look to the technologies who are coming up and what is the potential of the technologies, because it's a very pragmatic view. That means if you can see that technologies are growing and increasing, of course, something will change the learning behavior of our students. And therefore, also I'm concentrating on technologies aspects and just looking at what is coming and what is on the way, with the idea as how maybe this can affect also learning and teaching in future. The title is From Mobile Learning to Seamless Learning. That means I would also like to discuss what is for me the difference and what is going on here. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Also, my name is Martin Ebner. I'm working at Graz, University of Technology, and there I have two jobs. So the one job is that I am responsible for the whole e-learning activities at the university. I'm the head of the department Educational Technology, and we have to provide service in kind of technologies for learning for about 15,000 students and 2,000 lecturers. And my second part on this university is I'm also associate professor for media informatics, also media computer science, and it's not very surprising. My main topics in research are e-learning, mobile learning, social media for learning, open educational resources, and also learning analytics. And this is also how we are taking a close look to educational technologies. And of course, due to the fact that I make also research, I'm also bringing the research back also to the university with the idea that all my students can have a profit or a benefit from our knowledge. This page you can see how you can arrive me on the web. I should have any account on the web because I have to used to take a look to different possibilities, to different programs, and therefore I'm twittering, have a Facebook account, of course, on homepage, a blog, or whatever, and for sure you can get in touch with me if you're interested in it. This is the first one because of course the presentation was as a presentation for a lecture hall. I always give a short movie, where children were asking what is this media about, and we gave them a CD, we gave them a ruler or something like that, and was asking them what is that, and we gave them also the kids iPads. And if you the movie will watch later on, you can see that as children, all what happened before, as 2000, is not in their minds, and they are just thinking in technologies who are currently on the move. Means iPads, iPhones, smartphones, or whatever, and technologies we used to use in classrooms before 2000. That's just a kind of museum, and this movie shows very clearly what happens currently and what is the big change. Maybe a short introduction to the history of computer-assisted learning or e-learning, or however you would like to talk about, or technology-enhanced learning. In the very first beginning of computer coming up, of course, there were also ideas to bring learning and teaching content to the user via the computer. And the first thing was so-called computer-based training. So we have a kind of CD-ROM, and we have to install it locally on our computer, and then we can learn. So the teacher or the instructor gave us more or less the content, and we go home, put it in our own PC, and begin to learn. This was the first step. I would think about 1980 or something like that. The next step was the upcoming internet, the World Wide Web. And then we have, of course, the idea to take this CD and bring it to the web, to, for example, an information system. And then, of course, we have not only the content, but we can also say, okay, we have an information system where we can put in the CD. We have a user management, a kind of administration of the different courses, and we have different kind of communication channels. And therefore, we put us, or we have information systems, and the teacher was talking to the learners via the information systems. The typical example of so-called web-based training is, of course, the learning management systems, Moodle or whatever. And that was also the next step, 1919 to 2000, where we changed also from just learning with CD-ROMs to information systems. The next step was that we also see as teachers, oh, there is not only a learning management system outside in the web, there are big social networks, podcasting, blogs, whatever, so-called Web 2.0. And we begin to use also Web 2.0 technologies for learning. And of course, the learner wrote in wikis, learned with wikis, the teacher wrote in wikis, and we combined different technologies, and as well also the combination together with the information systems we had used, and begin also to use Web 2.0 for learning. And it was the stage of 2005, where we for the first time more or less were speaking Web 2.0 technologies for learning. And of course, the increase of the technology and the development of technology did not stop there. And then we see that there's many different devices were connected to the internet. It was not only our PC, it was also our laptop. Today it's also our smartphones. And so we have maybe 3, 5, 4 devices where we are connecting with the internet. And we would like to get all, of course, of our learning content on the different devices, and we are using the different devices in different ways. And it was more or less the beginning of a kind of mobile learning, because in the first time of humanity, we were able to do it really learning, beginning to get anywhere. So that first of all, we have to use our PC, and the PC was at our home. And currently now we can also get learning content on the move, whatever, anywhere, and that was for me the real beginning of mobile learning. When we take a closer look to mobile learning, then we see that currently our youth or our children are growing up in a kind of mobile world. That's I always talk about mobile generation. So that my children, for example, they can even not imagine that there was a world without a smartphone. And this pictures are showing, for example, typical pictures in Europe here, where children are used to use smartphones or tablets or whatever, and they are connected to the internet, of course. For example, you see also here a class with the One Laptop Per Child project. It was the first class in Austria using these laptops, and it was the first class ever where the children get within the age of 6 this laptop, and even they wasn't able to read, they wasn't able to write anything, but they have also a laptop and begin to learn with the laptop. But it's just one class where we have this field study. Interesting, for example, is if you take a look to the differences between 2009 and 2013. That is a user group where we ask children in the age of about 9 to 10, 11 years old, and what they are doing on the mobile phones. And it's very important to see the change. For example, here you see on the left side, we asked them, what are you using on your mobile phone? And 2009 was the most children have just media enriched phones, not all have smartphones. The most of them have no internet on the phone. And of course, you see, for example, that they never use emails for 80% in 2009. In the age of 10, they did never surf on the web, and they are just doing short messages or photos or videos. And 2013, just 4 years later, it changed dramatically. And you see, for example, we have a decrease on emails that only 40% never read an email, and that under 20% never used to use the web on the phone. And for sure, we would have a much more decrease if we are asking today. And that was the change what is happening now, because we see that as a children in the age of 10, for example, normally had a mobile phone. Mostly it's a smartphone. It's more or less it is a smartphone. And in Austria we have very cheap flat rates. Though that means that children in the age of 10 at latest have access to the internet. Yeah, the next slide is maybe also interesting. This is a slide. We have a very big survey every year for beginning in 2007, for example, where you can see what our students, our beginners at the university own. It's just the question, what do you own on yourself, or what do you have, and which kind of devices. And you see, for example, that we have about 70 to 80% have a PC. Yeah. Have a personal computer. About 60 to 70% have a laptop. So this means most of our students have at least both of these devices. Then more than 90% own a mobile smartphone, so we are going to the 100% here. And the most of them have an Android devices. That's of course because of the costs. And the rest owns just iPhones. And maybe you can also take a look to the e-readers. It's in the middle here. And you see that more than about 12 to 15% of my students own also an e-reader. That means that nearly every fifth of them currently can read ebooks, and that's also one of the next interesting steps to think about how we can deal with ebooks. And this is how they are equipped. That's for us it's very important, because sometimes we have also at the university the argument, oh, we cannot do anything because they have not their devices, they have no access to the internet and so on. And all these graphs for about 7 years now show exactly the opposite, that we have a youth who is very equipped and is used to this to use this technology. Yeah, then on the other side, concerning mobile technologies, the mobile learning, we have also learning theories about mobile learning. You see here from my colleague Sandra Schön, she carried out 3 different type of learning theories. We have the chance to make location-based learning in real life situations, because we exactly can go there, and we have a device which exactly knows where it is. Yeah, simply because the mobile phone has a GPS component, and there you can also track where you currently are. Then we have social learning, because social learning means that we can talk with each other. We have a device with us which can collaborate. It's also collaborative learning, and where we can make cooperations in time or in real time. And we have a kind of revival of game-based learning, we see, because on these small apps are often a kind of games, and there it is maybe easier to roll out games, and it's not so complex that we have in the very beginning of game-based learning. Yeah, and if I'm talking about mobile learning, then I would do not like to reduce mobile learning to just one aspect. It would be mobile applications. Normally, so if I'm talking with people, they are just thinking on mobile applications. But I think we have 6 different fields. If we are talking about mobile learning, we have the mobile information, podcasting, the geolocation area, we have social networks, we have ebooks, and finally we have these mobile apps. First of all, if you take a look to mobile information, I guess that is maybe the most important point, because what my students and my learners would like to have is that they have really access to information on the move. Therefore, we are building mobile websites. We are doing different responsive designs on gross and great huge systems that the people can really go by train and get all that information concerning, for example, the lecture on the move. Because it's not done beforehand, it's just as I take a look where I have to go and something like that. Here, for example, you see the design for tablets of our learning management system. The next big part is podcasting, because also most of our content is now rolled out in case of podcasts, or more or less podcast, because also we are talking nearly about so-called videos, and we are bringing the videos to the mobile phones or smartphones so that the learner can use and learn on the move when you have time, maybe in the train or whatever, and take a look again what was in the lecture, and can also repeat it, or whatever, also simply learn. It's also a huge part of mobile learning. Then, of course, the geolocation. I addressed it before. That is an example for geolocation-based learning. That means that we are, for example, giving students mobile phones, or they have their mobile phones with them, and they're going out to the field, and they're coming back, they're making photos, videos, whatever, and they're bringing back also these photos and videos together with tagged geolocations, and this is gone to a wiki system who is automatically carrying out the geolocation, and you can see, for example, here the Google Maps and where the photo was taken, and there the description of the students, what they have seen there. For example, that is something of civil engineering, where the people are taking photos of the site and what was going on there. Though it makes strongly sense in all the directions where geolocation is an important part of the study. Then social networks, so I guess you know all social about it as Twitter or Facebook, where also people discussing with each other through the social networks, and of course they are also using it also for learning. Yeah, that's Facebook. What we are doing, for example, is our Twitter walls. Twitter wall is, for example, that people are just twittering and during a lesson, and I gave them one hashtag for the lecture. That is, in this case, JADI 2011. And then they have a second hashtag that can be, for example, question or remark or whatever. And I can filter according to these two hashtags, one of my lecture, and then as I click on question, and I will get, for example, all questions happening in this hour, and can directly answer. And that's how we are using Twitter walls for education, for example. Yeah, and then the part of ebooks, I expressed it that there's nearly every fifth of my students currently own such an ebook from Amazon or Sony. And of course, they are asking for appropriate content on these devices. And we are beginning to think about how we can bring the lecture content also to these devices, because they are very useful in terms of reading. It's much better than tablets or smartphones. What we have done, for example, is one of the first prototypes was in mechanics. Mechanics, you see, for example, also the whole content of the typical calculation on the left side. And on the right side, you see within this ebook and podcast, which was embedded with the idea that the lecturer explains the content, what is where you can read, and if you don't understand it, you just can hear just in time what the lecturer had explained. Yeah, we're also using iBook Author just for testing. You know, there is a big disadvantage that just iOS user or Apple users can also use this kind of tool, but it would be very easy to make things with iBook Author, and that was just one of the first test runs about iBook Authors. Maybe also a very interesting research project was textbook using the EPUB 3 format. EPUB 3 is the open format and readable by any device. And what we were testing here was that, now, of course, one problem occurs because if you're a kind of teacher, then you are interested as what people have done in the books. For example, filled out something or marked something. Have they done the exercise right or not? And of course, you can't get all the tablets and to take a look. And therefore, we have a web program where you can, for example, click on your ebook, and we are sending the result from each device to the web platform, and your teacher can see how where the children are currently, or where is the state, and what have they already done, and what is correct or not, and so on. Yeah, kind of finally also the mobile applications. The mobile applications, for example, here just some hints or examples we have done here at the university. We have, for example, made some apps for children in the age of 6. It's called Masu. Masu is about learning as a very, very simple calculations. And whereas you see, it's just that you can also take the number of the heads of the lion and put it together to realize how also the simple calculation can be done. Yeah, and we had, for example, also done math memory. Math memory is also a very simple concept. That means that you have two cards, of course, and you have to bring together the right cards. One is the calculation and one is the result. So this is a kind of memory, a game. It's also game-based learning in the cases of simple math education. We have also done this, for example, for students of mechanics, whereas they can just exercise their reinforcements and forces, and so can play together and just repeat the content of the lecture. And that was mobile learning. So for me, the mobile learning with the 6 parts, and what is we are currently doing right now. And now we are seeing that we are coming to the next stage, because also from the research we see that the Internet of Things is coming. We see that there are many different devices are coming. You see in the picture here the Apple iWatch, or even each other sensor. It can also be a wearable sensor or something like that. And what is happening is that we just not have also these mobile devices, that we have much more just different systems who are currently are connected with the internet. So if you're thinking of Internet of Things, that means that any kind of device is connected to the internet, and of course this sensor and so on can also help to bring learning, as can be used for learning and education. And this is for me seamless learning. That it means it differs from mobile learning, that we have not only the mobile devices where also people just going active to the web. There are just more sensors who are delivering different things to just my mobile device, my computer, or whatever. To also much more and more devices are going connected, and maybe this is a step further. Yeah, thank you for the hint across systems, devices, and also spaces. And that you see, for example, how these emerging technologies through Internet of Things are currently beginning to work, and what we are, for example, doing in this direction, and what is also here on the move. Then, of course, we have this interactive math education. We are talking about classroom interactions through mobile devices. And they are, for example, giving me some hints, for example. And, maybe also these technologies, it's a kind of audience response systems. Audience response system, you can make a vote, for example, to a different question, and I get also 4 answers, and one of the answers you can vote a student, and I get back what the audience is thinking about. This is an example for such a system. And that we are using to get more interaction in huge classrooms. Of course, because the main problem is that that also people are not doing anything in these classrooms. Yeah, and you can see not just from a qualitative aspect. You can see it also from a quantitative aspect, so that you say you have your mobile device not only to vote, for example, for a particular answer. You can also go and make a kind of feedback. How is the lecture going on? It is too fast, it is too slow, it's understandable, it's not understandable, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad. And you can also all this mark on your device. And also what we are doing in the background is bringing together the feeling of the audience and bringing it back to the teachers. Yeah, and say, hey, you see, for example, you are much too fast, you are not understandable anymore, and maybe you can explain it later on, and something like that. That's this audience response systems. Then also to the part of collaborative learning, we have collaborative learning is not only learning human with human or human with device together with human and device. I think what we have think in a different ways, what is happening when we begin to connect the devices. So that means, for example, this one of the first prototype was this mass bingo, that if, for example, you have the table is an iPad, and you could connect to this iPad 4 different devices, so-called iPhones, of course, and each of these iPhones have the bingo cards. Yeah? And that means you have the table, the iPad, show you the calculation, in this case 3 plus 9, and then I can take a look on my iPhone and can see if the number is, for example, on the bingo card, and I am playing bingo, of course, with other players. And this is a connection through devices. So we are connecting devices to each other to make new learning scenarios happening and possible. And it's very interesting to see as how children are interacting with that and how they are helping each other. And here as a real collaboration begins to happening if you use, for example, such as an app. We have this done also with math pair. Math pair is also the same thing as memory, and math memory was also that we have 2 cards and 2 devices, and one have the card of the result and the other iPad has the calculation. So that the 2 people who are working on this game have to collaborate with each other, because otherwise it would not be possible to have the right solutions. It's also connections through devices. Maybe one of the most funniest things we have done in our research work was Buchstabenpost or letter post, letter snail mail in English. And the idea was that also up to 4 devices is one game, and you get, for example, a question. For example, this question translated to English would you see it in the night, and we are asking for stars, and you get a couple of letters. And of course, the letters you get are not the correct ones. And you have to change the letters with your partners. You have to say, okay, which kind of letter do you need and which kind of letter do I need? And that all 4 partners get also all their words. And then you got to the next level, for example. Buchstaben in English is letter. Something letter snail mail would be the right translation in this case. Yeah, and the next step also we are seeing currently is also MOOCs, also massive open online courses, which is a very interesting part in all this development. So we are outrolling more and more online courses for the society who are interested, for example, in particular topics. And so this massive open online courses are bringing education or the educational content to the world, with the idea, of course, if you are knowledgeable in the particular language, then you can take part on this course and can also improve your knowledge. And that is really a very new thing also for universities, because as currently we are not used to have people who are just interested in one course and who maybe also just interested in 1 week or whatever. And of course, on the other side, we have many experts, and the experts are producing videos and bringing also here knowledge to the society. A very huge part also of this currently ongoing research work is learning analytics. Learning analytics is a very interesting part, because nowadays we are able to collect data from, of course, databases, and then we can also make analysis of this data. And the idea of learning analytics is that we analyze a huge amount of data and bringing it back to the educators, to teachers, instructors, lecturers, whatever, and they can use this data and of course the final result of the analysis to improve their education. And we are thinking that, also, for example, education can get much more individually than it was the years before. Maybe one of the most interesting example is also this year. It's called our multiplication trainer. It's also the typical multiplication table. And what you see is on the right is the result. So we have currently more than 850,000 calculation in the databases. And today I can really point out where is the most heaviest calculation of the multiplication table. And it's 6.8 and 8.6 are the two most hardest calculations. And it's very interesting that we need for this to wait for the year 2015, because we have no real data in this variety and in this amount that we also can really say what is really the hardest question. And of course, it's easy imaginable that we can also not do this simple graph about all the databases we have, but we can also do the graph, for example, for classes. We can do it for just a simple student, for just one child. And if you see, for example, that the child in the last row has problem with, I don't know, 5.5, then you can ask exactly this child, this one, the next child, exactly where he is getting problems and so on. And that is what we are thinking about, what can learning analytics do for teachers to improve the teaching, because it's just not possible to make this list for every student by hand. And here is technology simply helping by carrying out this data. Yeah, we have this done also in MOOCs. For example, learning analytics in MOOCs is here. You can see just a simple picture how also people are watching videos. Where it's very interesting that you see the first three graphs, particular normal. There's video 1, 2, and 3, and the last one is there's nothing happening. And we see, for example, that people are not watching the video number 4. And then you can take a look why the people are not watching this video and what is happening there, and why they are dropping out, in particular at this video, for example. And that is things how we can use learning analytics in the background to improve our learning and teaching content. Then we have also a discussion in this emerging technologies also about the devices of tomorrow. You see, I have wearing a Google Glass, for example. You see, I'm wearing an iPhone watch, and of course, we have also the Microsoft Surface devices, and where you can think as how we can use it as also for learning and teaching. And what you do, for example, is we have first research works about near-field communication. You can see as how can we use NFC for learning and teaching, and so we have done first prototypes where you can just take your phone and go over the chip, and you get, for example, the lecture content. You can say, okay, hi, I'm here, and so on, and how we can use as a RFID technology also in education. Furthermore, this is an example how we can use the Google Glass for education. That is, if you remember, I told a little bit before about the interaction audience response system with in the big and huge lecture halls. And then we have the problems that you as teacher need not only the laptop or the PC to present your content, you also need a second screen where, for example, the feedback of the lecture hall will be placed and shown to you. And now we are, for example, bringing this feedback of the lecture hall to the Google Glass. So if you take a look to the glass, you can see in a very small part that we are visualizing the result of the feedback of the students in this class, for example. And therefore, you don't need a second device. You have just to wear, for example, the Google Glass. But you can also bring that to the phones. That is an Android watch where you get the same, and you get also, for example, if the lecture hall is very unsatisfied with your content and with your talk, then you get Vibra calls. Then you're shaking your hands, and then you can say, oh, okay, also I have to slow down my speed or whatever. Yeah, and the final thing is that what we are seeing is that we are going to a world where more and more things going connected, more and more things um, are not used, also it's not used that we need also very deeply programming language knowledge, but we can take in future robots, for example, 3D printers. We have hardware like Raspberry Pis, Arduino or whatever, and we are now beginning to work with children to use those things. For example, yeah, even if you are not a programmer, then we can also show how you can 3D print a simple object. Yeah? And also, what we see is that children mainly just need creativity, in more or less, and not only programming skills. And that is called maker movement. So you make with different devices your own product, and it's much more used to say it's also a kind of creativity to think about what we can now produce with the help of IT technology. And therefore, we are currently also running a MOOC, for example, and we have done the first Maker Days in also in German-speaking countries. And you see here, for example, also two children who make the first 3D print, and they was very excited about it, as how this is working and what they can do, for example. Yeah, those are my last slides. I guess you agree the future is digital and we cannot go back anymore, but this means very interesting things. You have your factual knowledge in your pocket, in your smartphones, on the web, and this is also change, of course, education. You're in a permanent exchange with your real and virtual community. So you have both communities where you can interact with it, because you have also devices always on the move. You have a permanent access to your individual work and learning environment, whatever this means. So it's something put on the web and you just get the information. And you use also many different ubiquitous devices, and they are getting more and more as if they are going to the internet. And therefore, we see that learning becomes much more ubiquitous and, of course, also seamless. I guess that was my last slide. Yes, I'd like to thank also for your attention. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Martin, that was very exciting, a very nice overview of all the different things that mobile learning encompasses. Irene put up her hand, and if anyone has any more questions, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to mute my mic. Irene, would you like to ask your question via the mic? Just let me know in the text chat. And if anyone wants to ask any questions in the chat. Right, Irene says she was clapping. Okay. So yeah, maybe let us know when you want to ask a question. So here is one asked by Alice. She says, given the challenges we face in the developing world, how best might one start the move into seamless? Martin, could you?
Yes, of course, it is a very interesting question because as one of my PhD students is currently working on the topic mobile learning for Sub-Saharan Africa, and I don't know, maybe you also saw the publication in Facebook we published. We have done a number of publications, and he also visited Sub-Saharan Africa, I guess, 4 times in their PhD study, and they told me very interesting things. Of course, the infrastructure is not comparable to Europe, and so many things. So what we can do here is not possible there. But they always told me there is a different chance that we haven't in Europe, because she said they have the chance to go now in this direction, mobile learning and seamless learning, and can more or less not go through the all experience we had with PCs and laptops, because just mobile phones is much more easier to get also for the children, and it's also easier for the infrastructure. And that is maybe an interesting aspect to concentrate so much more on the mobile things. Of course, you have also not the perfect devices like the iPhone and the Android smartphones, but also maybe we can roll out much more mobile things, and also people are going are used to use also these mobile devices for learning. And typically, we have in Europe the problem that we have students who have old devices and would like to have many different things and also different expectations to learning content. And all this stuff we have to do here is maybe not a problem in this area. And therefore, it's maybe much more easier and also faster to get mobile learning and mobile devices in educational also behavior. And also offline, because of course I understand that your aspect is not only online, because but you can go online, you can download it, and you have it on your device that can use it, for example, also on the move if you have not a mobile connections. Yes, that would also work. Yeah.
And also because sometimes people assumes that mobile learning is synonymous with having internet access, and that's not always the case. I know there's some more questions rolling in, but while folks are typing in their question, I thought I'd ask about whether you think the potential of mobile technologies for education in sub-Saharan Africa and elsewhere in the developing world, whether you think it's being realized.
I think then the next steps is also that mobile devices will going also to this country, and more people will have mobile devices. And then we have we have seen some projects in sub-Saharan Africa who are rolling out the content for especially for mobile devices. And I see that also we are more or less going in this direction in Europe. And of course, the hope for the whole humanity is that if we are producing more and more content, then also can be used worldwide by different devices. I also see just also one problem is of also the language, yeah, because of course the learners need content more or less in their language, and this might be also a problem if we, for example, are rolling it out in German or even in English, then it might not good for beginners in beginners education because they have their own language, and I see there is a huge problem to translate all this content.
Thank you. And we've got two questions here. One comes from Alice, and she wants to know to what extent have educators embraced the use of learning analytics to improve their teaching and learning? And Irene asks, how is the performance of students compared to, say, a few years back?
Yes, so the question of learning analytics is a very interesting one, so to speak, because of course there are many issues in privacy, security, and what is happening with learner data and so on. But on the other side, I think we as educators should think about how this data can help us. And for sure, we have analyzers who can get a very new view to this kind of learning process. Yeah? So if you see it on this example of the multiplication table, it's just the result of learning analytics that we exactly know what is currently the hardest calculation and where have people problems, and is this problem just once or it is happening more than once. And we can see if, for example, it's very interesting of the analysis of the data, if, for example, a child makes a failure 3 times in a row, then for about 80% probability, it will have a problem for a longer term than just 3 calculations. So there is a problem, and then have the teacher to invent. Of course, teachers and educators are always telling us about data security and something on. That's of course a very important aspect. But on the other side, we have, of course, to take care that just educators can see the content, and maybe after the class, also we delete the content or whatever. The main, or we make an anonymization or something like that, that you cannot say, okay, the particular person have done this calculation 10 years ago. But this is, it's also a kind of political decisions, whereas privacy and security is going on. And for sure, we can also making very good things with learning analytics, but as usual with big data, you can do also bad things. Yeah, and of course, that is a decision of the whole humanity. How is the performance of the students compared to, say, 2009 or a few years back? Performance in which direction? This is what we are seeing is that also we are not looking to learning results. Also, I'm just have a very pragmatic view to the devices, and if I take a look to this kind of children, then they are using media for in their daily life, and they're using media in particular cases also in the learning and teaching, and we should not ignore that, because our life here and our society is going using more and more media, and we have also to educate children how to use this media in their daily life and in their job afterwards and so on. And so the result, I guess, is also a good student will be a good student with or without any device. But the main problem is that our daily life is changing, and we have to bring people also the reality back. That is also more or less not so towards performance. It's much more that we have to educate much more than just math or language or whatever. Yeah, so this classroom interaction, that is also an interesting question. Also, a very good running was the multiple choice questions. So when you just make a multiple choice question, that is also very useful for education. That is also all educators are telling us. It needs, of course, some time, but you get very valuable feedback. And that is from this point of view, I can only say just do it, because the software is for free and doesn't make any costs. Much more problem we have with the live feedback, as you can say, it's too fast or it's not understandable, because educators give us the feedback that they now know that there are, for example, there was something ununderstandable, but they just don't know what exactly was not understandable though. So there is a combination of both things. It might be the future perspective of this software.
And we've got another question from Irene about
the cheating, yeah.
yes.
Cheating. Yeah. Cheating is, yes, I'm always telling as a cheating is, of course, as a one problem. Also, if you're cheating is a problem in case of examinations, and of course, in case of examinations, we have no online examinations or something like that, so they have to come to university and have to do the examinations. In all other cases, I explaining my students they cannot cheat me; they are cheating themselves, and there must be a culture that if they would like to learn it, then they have to do it. And if, of course, I can talk here at universities, because there I can say that it's your responsibility, and therefore I have currently no real problem with in these cases.
Thank you. And then Alice has got an interesting question. She wonders whether there's a particular reason for the uptake of e-readers and why it is lower than for other devices.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because I'm also an particular enthusiast about e-readers, and I'm reading much more on e-readers than on tablets. I guess it's the much more that people are doing it very hard to say, okay, I need no books anymore, because books are very important, of course, in our life, and the most arguments against it that I would like have to have the book. And of course, I can write into the book, and the e-readers are just reader devices. And I cannot, it's not a tablet where I can write something or mark something, and I can do with the book a little bit more than with the e-reader. And I guess that is more or less the most problem in the uptake of the e-readers. But also on the other side, if I going by airplane or are going by train, there is a dramatical increase of e-readers. So people are taking, in this case, their e-readers with them, and I'm expecting that the growing is constantly going up. Yeah, it's not so heavy to carry, but it's not surprised because they are currently in Europe about €100. That's not a problem. No, the poor culture of reading, I don't think so. This is for me. It's just so that most people are arguing for the book currently, and it's just in their imagination that they have to have something in the hand like a book.
And I thought I'd also share. I was chatting to a group of European students the other day, and I was really surprised how they do not have flashy phones at all. I think people from Africa, we sometimes have this perception that overseas things are bigger and better, but they didn't have smartphones. They were.
Yeah, that is a very within Europe a very huge difference because this depends on how smartphones and mobile phone providers are located in each country. And in Austria, we have a very huge luck because of the huge mountains. We have a very strong mobile network, and this leads that we are kind of test country for other countries to see as how the newest speed and so on the networks is running, and we are getting the new things much more and cheaper than other countries. And in case of Middle Europe, I think we are very equipped with mobile phones, and as I mentioned before, also at the age of 10, all children have mobile phones, and other countries, so for example Norway or Sweden, much more. They have, I think there are the children 7 to 8 where have the mobile phones, and if you go, for example, to Spain or Italy or Greek, then it decreases. So it depends really. It's really different which kind of country you take a look.
Yes, that's really interesting. So there are country differences around the popularity of devices. I even had a friend in Israel who had a younger sibling who was at that stage 7 years old, and she had a cell phone to phone her mom if there was a bomb scare at work. I thought, how could a 7-year-old have a cell phone? But then it made sense. While we've got some more questions rolling in, I thought I'd ask you whether, is near universal ownership of mobile devices and good bandwidth enough, or do practice of such devices? Is something else needed for mobile phones to become learning devices?
Yes, the first thing is indeed the infrastructure, because we see that the main problem is that you have to bring in mind teachers and learners as well, that they can use these devices for learning. But of course, they can only use these devices if the infrastructure is running, and it becomes only imaginable if I have a very strong and powerful network, because then it goes easy to make videos, for example. So I see my sons who are going to the train, and it's just normal for them that they are just looking to the videos from YouTube. And if this is possible, then of course the whole society and the whole people of one country are thinking about, of course, as if all my people, as if I as teacher are watching movies on my smartphone, then I can also expect it that my students and my children are doing it, and then I will use it for learning. That it's the most impressive strange of technology if they're still running and everyone is using, and that is always my argument to see how the market is performing, and if I can see in my country that they use technology currently, then I can use this technology, and I cannot go 10 steps in future, because if nobody has a particular infrastructure, it just costs money, and people can't imagine because they are not using these devices in their daily life. And I see just where we are going on, and currently we are the broad mass has tablets, has smartphones, and now they are beginning to use it also for learning and teaching stuff, and if they have all an iWatch, then they will also think about how we can use, or how we need something on the iPhone. The rest is research, of course.
Yes, thank you, Martin. And I see Alice has a question here around so what are some of the more interesting barriers to implementation of mobile learning from a developed country perspective?
Yeah, so if you have the infrastructure and you have, of course, the devices, then you have to think out also how you can integrate these devices in your teaching context. And this is, of course, the next another barrier, because you have to think how might be these devices useful for teaching and learning, and how can I use it in classrooms and so on. And that is what we are teaching to our students. And so currently, students of teacher education, for example, where we're just thinking about, if I have a class with iPads, then also how can I use this particular app for my education, and how does it influence? Because it's of course different as using a book, yeah? And that must be, of course, that's the didactical approaches, pedagogical approaches, and so on.
Okay, great. All right, Alice, maybe okay. So we'll have one more question, because I see we're 1 minute to 3, and we'd like to also continue those discussions in the Emerge forums, know about the level of uptake or adoption by educators. So, what are these like
Yes,
in your opinion?
I see that is the hardest question in the as last year. Yeah, so this is the most problem. The most problem is, of course, is how you can bring digital literacy to the educators, and also in Europe. Also, that is the most or a huge problem we had, because as our children are used to use these devices, and our educators not, and they have to learn how to use it. And there is a very, very huge difference between the knowledge of the children, it's their device, and the educators who just get the device from the school or whatever. And digital literacy is deeply discussed, how we can bring it to the teachers. And of course, currently are running some courses or something like that. But in the long run, it does mean that we need, of course, in our educational programs, also when we are doing these teachers, then we have to bring digital literacy in there. And in a very, very long run, we need also we have to teach digital literacy in the same way, from my perspective, as the language, as math and whatever, because it becomes more and more important.
Thanks so much for your presentation, Martin, and for answering all our questions. We'll have some more questions for you after this session, but hopefully we can continue these at the Facebook event page, which I'll share over here, as well as the forum on Emerge Africa. Thank you very much.
Of course, please post in Facebook or whatever. I will try to answer the question or my ideas concerning this topic. Yeah, and thank you again for the invitation, and hopefully you enjoyed my talk. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. We wish you a wonderful day further, and to all our participants as well. Bye for now.